Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. We're bringing the best and the brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today on the podcast is Hussein Hallak. Hussein is a seasoned entrepreneur, prolific advisor, and thought leader in the tech space with a career spanning over 25 years. He is the founder and CEO of Decentrum, a leading provider of business education and emerging tech, and the company behind Momentable that we're going to focus on today, a discovery platform for art and culture. And he's developed over 20 startups, owning extensive expertise and experience. In his previous role as Evangelist and General Manager at Launch Academy, he mentored and trained hundreds of entrepreneurs, helping it become one of North America's premier tech incubators. With over 6,500 founders, 500 startups raising more than $1 billion. It's incredible. And he's got a ton of other successful ventures like CreativeArab, the world's first and largest marketplace for Middle Eastern. And we're going to get all to this and his extensive knowledge he's going to share. Let's get to it. Hussein, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. That's quite an introduction. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And a lot of folks say, hey, could you send me just that recording so I could play it to my friends and family and they'll have a better idea of what I do for a living? Like, can you just send me that clip and I could just send it in my holiday cards and birthday cards and all that. Well, first and foremost, welcome to the show. Joining us from the great Pacific Northwest in the what I hear is a beautiful city of Vancouver. I got to get myself out there soon. How's your morning going? Your early morning?
The morning is great. I'm having my yerba mate tea. So there it is.
I love the tea. I save my tea for the afternoon. I start with coffee, and if I feel the need, I can't get off the coffee, man. I've been on this nutrition kick with Athletic Greens in the morning, which is good because I don't have my first cup of coffee till about an hour and a half, 2 hours later.
Athletic Greens as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And it's anyway, we digress here. But I mean, I'm gonna go off script for a moment here. I think it's pretty cool what you told me before. Tomorrow you're leaving for Japan with your 18-year-old son. Was this trip his idea or your idea?
Oh, definitely his idea. He's been obsessed with Japan for quite some time right now. And it's part of my, I think, maturity, if you wish. Like for the longest time, you're entrepreneur, all you focus on is building your startup, making it work. It's kind of, it's an addictive kind of work. If you actually love what you do, the days kind of mush into each other. So here I am with my 18-year-old son. I can't believe he was a kid and we were playing around and goofing around, a few years back. And especially those last few years, they grow really fast. So I thought before he kind of venture into university and explores adulthood on his own, it's good to set up that relationship in a good way. Now, I don't know if we stuck in a room, we're going to kind of be at each other's necks, but we have a good relationship. And I thought it would be nice to kind of walk in his shoes and see the stuff that he's passionate about. And he's passionate about Japan, the art, the culture there. And I love art and culture, and I've never been there. So, okay, fine. That sounds like a great idea. He wanted to go on his own. But I said, I won't let you go on to a completely strange country at 18. It's your first travel. I'm going with you, at least for the first part. And that's how it ended up going.
I absolutely love it, and it's going to be an adventure. I've only passed through Japan on a stopover. Unfortunately, we didn't spend too much time there, and I totally regret that. But it's definitely back on the list. So that's awesome, and I think that's admirable. And we talk a lot about this entrepreneur mindset. We'll get to, and you really hit on something that, listen, there's a difference between being a career lifetime entrepreneur and someone working a more traditional 9 to 5, and you have your set vacation time with your family. As an entrepreneur, we have to be conscious, especially as parents, to make that time, to find that time, because our PTO, our scheduled time off, it's up to us. And sometimes we just keep on working. We keep on trucking. I know for me, one of the things that I try to do is my wife's an attorney and she has vacation time and she sets it. I model her vacation time as my vacation time. Right, we're gonna be taking off together. But what advice would you give other maybe single solo entrepreneurs out there to be more mindful of their recharging and refreshing time?
Oh, absolutely. I think I've experienced burnout before, and I've seen a ton of entrepreneurs experience burnout. I think the idea of working on something that you love and being obsessed with getting somewhere is fascinating. It's a great drive. However, there's a lot of times where, as I said, like days and nights kind of mush into each other and you don't sense it. And since as you said, you own your own time, the biggest challenge is If you don't set now, when you're working, you have a weekend, but when
Mm-hmm.
you're working is like, I just need to finish this website, for example, and then you pull an all-nighter, or let's say throughout the weekend, and what ends up happening is you didn't feel it because you got the result that you want,
Mm-hmm.
but 3-4 days have passed, and for others, especially let's say your family, they have not seen you, experienced you, or had, you didn't have a chance. You already is like, oh, it's for you, it's kind of split second. For them, it's been 3 days or 7, or a week. They haven't seen you. So I think one of the things that I realized is, first of all, talk to the people around you, your friends and your family, and it's an amazing time to recharge. The kind of ideas and the kind of energy you bring back to work is all worth it to stop, connect with people, and go back to what you're doing. I think it's highly valuable, and also that time, especially with kids and family, for me at least, is irreplaceable. I've
Yeah, you're
lost a
not going
lot
to
of
get that
time when
back.
he was a baby, and it's you can't take that back. The time has passed. Whereas work, I mean, there's always another problem to solve. There's always another client to land. There's always something to do with work. I think with family, there's the time is irreplaceable, and I think as much as you can take that time, take it, because at the end of the day, I thought asked myself, at the end of the day, what will I regret the most?
Mm-hmm.
And having built several companies, every time I built one, it sounds like it's the one that's going to change the world, and it's the one that has
Right.
changed my life, and it's a great feeling to have. At the end of the day, it's just one of the things that I'm doing. Whereas I have one family, let's say I have limited amount of friends, these are irreplaceable. So I think setting value, or acknowledging where value is in life, is crucially important for everyone, not just entrepreneurs.
Tremendous. I want to hit the rewind button for a moment here, and if you're looking back at your life, and maybe even through the lens of your son, when was that moment that you really knew that entrepreneurial spirit was strong with you, and you were going to follow down this path?
I would remember since the first job that I got. So I got my first job because I needed the money, and I wanted to express my artistic talent. The first job actually didn't pay me. The guy hired me for a month and didn't pay me. So my experience was like, oh,
We all have
I
those
hadn't been
stories.
paid.
Yeah.
So it stayed with me actually. So I never want to, let's say, leave anyone not paid. I actually
Mm.
sometimes, even if somebody delivered like kind of not a very good job, at least from my side, I was like, okay, I deliver on my commitment. So that stayed with me. But throughout life, I seeked work at the beginning, not understanding what entrepreneurship is. I just knew
Mm.
that I wanted to do something, and I went and did it. And I did it throughout university to kind of put myself through university. But by the time I graduated, I couldn't just imagine myself working with someone. Every time I get a job, I'm disagreement with the direction. I think I know
Mm-hmm.
better. Like we should go down that direction. So it wasn't that I'm a great employee actually, but just I feel that if I'm in control and the direction, I get to experiment more. I get to kind of enjoy more. So it just and I can't take these ideas out of my head. It's like I have to do something. So that's kind of the drive. But I put a name on it in around 2004 when I learned what the word entrepreneur meant. Because in Arabic, I grew up in Damascus, Syria. There wasn't a word for entrepreneur.
What so what do they call it? I mean, there's so many people that are independent, like shop owners, business
Yeah,
owners. Like, what does small business translate to? Right, right. Like
you're
before entrepreneur is
yeah.
a small business owner, and it still is. I mean, I consider myself an entrepreneur in mindset, but I'm a small
Mhm.
business owner.
Yeah, we don't. It's usually, I
Mm.
mean, in Syria at that time, we're talking the let's say the late 80s, early 90s. It was more you either inherited a business. It was trade. That was what
Right.
it's known. Like you're in trade, or you're someone who's handy. Like a mechanic or
Mm-hmm.
something. So and most people inherited that. Very few people kind of started, or when they started, they think about I own a business, but they don't think of them as entrepreneurial or startup kind of mindset.
What did your dad do in Damascus?
He was a journalist,
Interesting.
prevented
Um,
from writing.
I mean, I was about to say. I mean, we could spend a whole hour just talking about your dad's stories during that time. Which I mean, not to fast forward. I mean, times now are pretty crazy into itself. But what did you learn from your dad and your mom that you look back on it now and you're like, damn, that really infused my mindset, and especially around focused entrepreneurship and building businesses and brands.
Yeah. My dad loved, can put passion into anything that he did. Like everywhere he worked, one of the things I respected the heck like out of is that whoever he worked with, people were so impressed and they found him irreplaceable. This kind of shaped my whole vision, my
Mm.
whole view of life is that wherever I want to go, I never want to be replaceable. I want to be irreplaceable. I want
Yep.
people who work with me to feel that how could we done it without Hussein? Now that can be taken a little bit exaggerated because I put more, work, like relentless work into it. So I did get burnout, but that is one of the principles. He was very, very principled with his work. Whatever he said, he will deliver regardless of other people. So that kind of trained me. I call it the million
Dude,
dollar signature. What it means is that once I sign a contract with you, it doesn't matter if you pay me $1 or a million. I'll always deliver as if you paid me a million.
I love
uh,
that.
because it's about me, it's not about you. And that's one of the things I learned from one of the key things I learned from him. And kind of I was angry, is like, why you're working, why you're doing still work and those people are not paying you? He said, because I gave my word. And that stuck with me, and that's how I live my
I
life.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
wish more people. I wish. I mean, I mean, let's pause on that for a second here. I mean, I can't even tell you, us as small business owners and entrepreneurs. I had my first. Geez, I can't believe it. I've been in business for 6, 7 years now, and I had my first defaulting on a contract this year, where somebody, I'm not going to get into details, but we had a situation, and I could say wholeheartedly that it was not my fault, and shit happens, and you're going to deal with those type of people in business, and your word is bond. And I wish we would get back to that. I mean, we look at society now, and it's like there's no consequences. People say whatever the hell they want in social media and in the press, and there's no consequences anymore. We're not holding people to a higher standard, and I truly feel that we need to get back to that, especially in business. I mean, I'm sure you have a million war stories of shitty situations, and all that. But like, I feel as an entrepreneur, right? Like, you have to take those lumps sometimes, so you know how to handle them, and you know
Yeah.
how to react, and you know how to make decisions based off of them. Is it going to cost me less money to settle this and move on and never have to deal with this person again, or am I going to put in the time to fight this and take away from my mental energy and take away from better things, right?
Yeah. I can tell you that for every time that I, let's say, chose money over, let's say, principle, it, no matter how much the money is, it ended up kind of
Hmm.
making me not sleep at night, and it ended up following me. And every time I used
Yep.
my money to, like, it's like, okay, screw the money, just let's end it, and make sure at least I can say to others that I've respected my principles and delivered on principle. That kept me so comfortable. And I think the feeling of how you proceed throughout, maybe one of the biggest, let's say, discoveries for me, is how you feel as you go through life is
Mm.
probably the most important kind of barometer. So if
Yeah.
I'm,
What do you
let's
what do you
say,
mean by that? Yeah. Let's unpack that one a
yeah,
little bit. That's a good one.
well, let's say if I'm in a place, for example, the last job I had before I did this company, and because I moved to Vancouver, I had to take on jobs. I was an entrepreneur for the longest. I lived in Damascus and then Dubai and then Vancouver. Moved to Vancouver 10 years ago, and obviously I was starting from zero, so I took on jobs. And whenever I was in a job and I felt I am not delivering anymore, or it became not challenging, or I feel that I don't belong, I immediately tell the CEO, and I transition out of that job, regardless of what. And I started doing that since 2009, after the
Mm.
kind of the financial crisis, because I saw that there's no guarantees. Like, even if you hang on to something, the thing can let you go.
Hmm.
Like, you can't hang on to something that doesn't belong to you. Kind of. I don't know if you believe in that, but for me,
To
what
some
ended up,
extent, yeah, I get it.
yeah. So I felt, in the last job, I felt like, okay, I did everything I could. We quintupled the revenue. They had oversubscribed for investment. And I said, my job is done. Moving forward, you need somebody who manages the success that we achieved. I'm not challenged anymore. So I said, I'm leaving. And the CEO could not believe it. He said, who offered you more money? I said, I don't have an offer. I just feel that if I stay on, I'm taking money that I don't deserve, because I'm not
Mm.
going to be able to deliver at my top notch. It's not challenging for me anymore. I should find another challenge. And that feeling, led me to start to go down the road of Momentable, which is something I'm loving right now. And if I haven't taken that decision, I didn't know what's going to happen. But if I haven't taken that decision, and I've taken that decision quite a few times, every time I take it, the next step is far better. And so I think how you feel, it's kind of like being with someone that you don't love. Like they can be great, but if you don't love them, you want to be with someone you love. You want to be with someone that kind of moves you. And I think if we go through life in the same kind of barometer, having that as a measurement, it's far better.
Hussein, I think there's a lot of parallels, and I never even thought about like that in that sense, right? There's a lot of parallels between passion and love in personal relationships and business relationships, right? Are you enabling them? Are you just hanging around because you don't want them to get hurt? Is that what's best for them? Probably not, and that certainly translates into the business world. Before we talk about your latest ventures, let's hit the rewind button. I want to talk about Xena. You acquired within a year. Was it built for that? Like, what's the story behind that? Was it a business built to be acquired, sold within a year, or that just happened based on the success?
I didn't know what the word was at the time. It was kind of my first tech company. We built websites that are game-like, and the first company we got is kind of like the Disney of the Middle East. It's called Spacetoon, and they loved the work that we did. We built them a website that is more like a game. At the time, it was very complex to do something like this, and the team that I put together, there were like 4 team members that never did that before, and I love doing that kind of thing. I never did that before, so we actually made a great job within 3 months. And they said, "Okay, and I had an offer in Dubai at the time. The vice president of the company said, "Okay, we're taking you in." Now I knew after that this is called Acquihire, and they gave me a brilliant job in Dubai at the time, which I'm very thankful for. But I didn't know what that meant. It's like, yeah, okay, great, better job, let's go in. I didn't know what a startup meant. I didn't know what investment, like I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, you're figuring it all out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what ended up happening. We just did the best job that we could do, and ended up being that they wanted the whole team because they saw the value and the talent.
And then because of that success, correct me if I'm wrong, you jumped into CreativeArab. Tell everyone a little bit about what that platform is all about.
Yeah, I've been fascinated with art since a very, very young age. I draw myself, and I write poetry, and I write kind of stories as well. So I've been fascinated with art, always found myself in galleries, museums while growing up in Syria. And I thought at the time that the best way to connect the world, especially the Middle East, with the Western world, is to showcase art and culture. And I thought these can build bridges. There was no Arab artist that had a website. I think out of all the Middle East, there was one artist that had a website, in particular, the guy that did the fonts, the Arabic fonts for Apple. And I put, at the time, successfully within 3 years, we put 1,200 artists, Arab artists that weren't online. And we became the largest website of its kind.
It's awesome.
Because there wasn't any website of its kind.
Right. Wow. I mean, so that hits on a lot of different points, right? And we talk about entrepreneurship where it's passion, cause, goodwill, and profit for good. Right? Like when all those kind of pieces come together. But was that the initial plan, or that's just the way it worked because you're doing things the right way?
It was actually the best thing that I've done and the worst thing that I've done. The reason is by that time, I've done several ventures and they were all successful. So since I didn't have any business education, I read a ton of books, but mostly books like I want to do sales. So I'll go read a sales book and apply what they have, especially on the internet. I would go find and go down that path. But I didn't, at the time, startup culture was just starting. Y Combinator was just starting, I think 2005 was the first cohort. So something called a startup or startup having a model for building something like that did not exist. So I made all the mistakes that later I knew their mistakes. So while we were successful media-wise, we were in Forbes, we were in BBC, like people were celebrating me as if I'm the person who's going to change the face of art in the Middle East. But the profit, we didn't think about the money. So what ended up happening is payment online was almost impossible in that part of the world. Nobody wanted to buy art online. So that was a very unique idea around 2006. WordPress did not exist at the time, so it was very expensive to build a website like we did. So none of these things, I had no clue. I just do what I wanted to do. So we built it, we launched it, but we couldn't make money from it. So I had to sell it off. So we made all those mistakes that I've later taught the entrepreneurs not to make. And
Well, if
help
we're
them
not
see the values of education.
right, it's either I earn or I learn. Right, it's either I'm
That's a good
learning,
way of
earning,
saying it. Yeah,
right, earning
I love it.
or earning. I'm learning. And let's do a little kind of fast forward here for a moment, and we talk about online art, and we talk about, let's rewind it to 2020, and we talk about the emergence in the greater public eye of NFTs and how they work in Web3. Is that something that how did that passion and interest come of that intersection between technology and art? Let's talk about your journey into the Web3 space and online art as
So
digital
for
NFTs.
me, art. Thank you for the question. It's great. For me, art has always been the best way to connect people. If you think, let's say, me and my wife, we connect over songs that we listen to.
Mm.
We stop in for our paintings, for example. Like we spent a lot of our time going to galleries, museums, wherever we go. So it's a passion of mine, and I feel a lot of people have that passion. But when I found out that 90% of people have never set foot in a gallery or museum, and
Really?
even if they do, like I went to New York last year. It was my first visit to New York, first visit to the Museum of Modern Art, and the first time I
MoMA.
saw Picasso. Yeah, the first time I saw Picasso ever, and I've been in love with Picasso's work since 1992. So 30 years until I saw Picasso. It was incredible, but it took me a lot of money, obviously, to get there. Let's say, and a journey, and even when I get there, 97% of all art and cultural artifacts sit in storage. So even if you make it to galleries, and so it's insane. I was like,
And
all of this history is sitting in storage. Can we just put it out there for people to see in a great way? So that's what motivates the work. And I wanted to help artists and museums make money because unfortunately, art and culture are the first things that get slashed in any kind of economic downturn, and
yep.
museums were suffering even in the US, I mean, and around the world. So I wanted to do something around that. And then when I saw NFTs, they had their kind of their rise. I saw them as a solution for artists who want to make money online, but it's there's a lot of logistics in selling art online that is
There
physical
is.
art.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a tough one. It's funny. My friend Jacob is one of the curators at Christie's here in New York, and he
nice.
posted a video about a month ago. He was down in the vault, which showing for the first time all of these. He's like, there's a Picasso, here's a Rembrandt, here's a this, here's a that, and he's pulling them out, and they're in these sliding file drawers, and they're protected and everything. And I asked him, like, what the heck? He's like, dude, he's like, same thing you say. It's like 95% of the art that museums have is not on display. And one of his jobs is making sure there's rotations and curations there. And there's a couple of really cool tech. My buddy Chris works for a company too. And he's going to kill me for not dropping the name of it right now. But their whole idea is rotating museums, being able to show art both online and offline, and getting all this art that is in storage out to the public and rotating it. Right, like of course the Mona Lisa is in the Louvre, and you're going to see it there. There's some anchor pieces that are going to stay there. You go to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, and there's going to be pieces that are always going to be there too. But let's rotate. Let's see some of the new stuff. Are we going to? I mean, did we screw the pooch here on the NFTs? I mean, I personally think that the cartoon art, the rug pulls, and the scammers really ruined it. I think there's still an incredible opportunity for a resurgence and a rebirth of this technology in the right light. What are your thoughts?
To a certain extent, I agree. I think the main problem with NFT art or AI art is attaching art to a word that doesn't mean anything. Which it's like calling photography that is art, camera art. It doesn't make any sense. There is no camera art. There's either art or no art.
Fair.
So calling Board API Club art, I don't think so. Because it wasn't made as an intention as an art. It was kind of a ticket to a club. So you can obviously, like, you can stick a banana to a wall and call it art. Art can be anything that you want, and
Right.
we have
Art is
opinions
subjective.
about. Yeah, very subjective. But the intention with art is a conversation, to provoke something, to start a conversation, to put a point out. But a lot of these things were made just for the sake of profit or community, which is completely fine. The problem is when it was labeled art, and then the main driver became of the NFT kind of world is making money. People were not getting in and buying stuff based on passion, their value, or believing that this is something that they love. It's like, oh, I can make money here, which is completely fine if that's what you want, but just don't call it, I'm collecting art. You're basically making an investment, or more likely actually making a gamble.
Yeah, it's a gamble.
that's what you're doing, and that's completely fine. It's your money, you want to do with it what, I have no judgment. But it's when you conflate things, and what ended up happening is NFT is a brilliant technology. It's made to
I
transfer
agree.
ownership over the internet.
Yeah, let's
which is
separate
not
the
possible.
technology from the art.
Yeah,
I mean, we talk about this
exactly.
all the time, like the possibilities when it comes to decentralized documents, finance, healthcare records, all the good things about it. Unfortunately, it got the bad rap when you attach all the monkeys and the apes to it
Yeah.
and the rug pulls. People can't separate. They also can't separate crypto from Web3, or there's a
Yeah.
whole, we could go down that path.
Yeah, we still love the technology. Still believe I spent like years studying it. In fact, I'm 2 courses down from my master's in digital currencies. So I took that very seriously, and my first stint at it is to teach people about it, because I believed it's so important. Just like right now with AI, we take a lot of effort to teach artists, to work with people and help them learn. It's up to you what you want to do with it. It's kind of like learning a tool set. But when the tool becomes the primary, which is when people want to invest, it's the same thing that happened with .com. Any website became worth millions of dollars, even though it might be shitty, or has no great idea, or doesn't deliver any great value. It's the drive. So separating the investment from the actual viability or usefulness of a technology is very important. So we do separate, and we still kind of allow for NFTs for transfer of ownership, but we don't attach it and say this has value because it's an NFT. If you want, you can buy an artwork digitally, and if you want to turn it into a wallet so that you feel a sense of ownership, good for you. And the idea behind NFTs, why we got into it, is to support the artists and museums. We never jumped in. We created our own collection. And in fact, in our Discord, one of our earliest messages we created a project called Crypto Pharaohs. I love the Egyptian culture, and we built around that. And for all intents and purposes, you can say it is an NFT project. However,
But that's the
when people
technology.
started and when people kind of jumped in and say to the moon, immediately on our Discord, like, no, you're buying a product. This will never go. It's not that this might go to the moon. It's like, this will never go to the moon. There's no value in NFTs. We're creating something interesting. You want to support this project, you're welcome, but please don't buy this as an investment. You'll probably lose money.
It's so interesting too. I mean, I fell into the NFT gambling. I mean, I did. I hook, line, and sinker, and against the advice of many, and I took a bath in it, right? I mean, but I'm still holding on to a lot of pieces, and I look at them and I'm like, I remember why I bought this piece, because I actually like the art. And I have 2 different sets. I have the ones that I bought for gambling purposes, and then there's ones because I supported the artist. I'm looking on my wall right now. You can't see. I have a Gabe Weiss. I have all these legitimate artists that I love, that I have their physical and their digital art. Peter Tunney, Gabe Weiss, all these other folks that I have out there, and there's different ways to look at it. All right, let's talk about Momentable. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys have built, the purpose behind it, the mission.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 2 trends, I think, that are very strong right now happening on the internet: the conversational web and the visual web. The conversational web is, to make it simple, is what ChatGPT is doing. You talk to an app, in this case ChatGPT, on your phone. You show it what you're seeing, and it gives you answers. No more talking to Siri and say, how do I do this? And it gives you links, and you have to click on them, read them, see images. And it might be not related based on who did SEO optimization. Whereas you can ask a chat bot, and the chat bot can tell you exactly what you need to do. So that's the conversational web, and it's happening right now. We can see it. What I see as well is the visual web. For the longest, we've been experiencing the internet as pages and images, and you have to read. What if you can turn that into images that play and the words are read to you? Because that, first of all, is far more usable, and you can play it on any screen. And what do everybody have? Almost everybody has a big screen or a TV sitting in the heart of there. So what if, instead of, when you want to learn about something, instead of going to, you have to have, let's say, go to the computer and open it up, and that's where you do it, or on your phone, you can just open it on the TV and can play it. And that's the driving factor. So we believe heavily in the visual web as well. We believe they overlap, obviously, and especially for art. So instead of, right now, a lot of the arts, we have right now around 17,000 artworks on Momentable that are taken from databases, public access databases, pulled together by some of the greatest institutions, like the National Gallery of Art from the US. They have a database of 50,000 artworks available for public access, but you have to click on every image. It's not usable. They did the work of combining and aligning those, archiving them.
Interesting.
So what we're doing is we're pulling from those and we're showing them in a way that plays like a documentary. I like to refer to BBC documentaries, when they do on the painting, and the painting scrolls, slowly. So that's actually what we built. We built a
Cool.
software that allows you to go. You can play it on screen and just enjoy it. And the more you click on it, just like with Netflix, the more it shows you. The AI kind of curation shows you more art that you may like. So, and that way you're kind of seeing the art. And if you subscribe for different packages, it reads the description of the art. It can read poetry. It can play music.
That is fascinating. And then how are you adding tonality and feeling and vibe to that?
Well,
versus like an automated, like
Yeah,
mechanical
absolutely.
voice, robot voice.
So what we're doing is obviously AI is enhancing, and right now we're just putting the artwork along with music. It's akin to whenever you go to a gallery or a museum and put your headphones on,
Like
and
the
it just
listening
kind
tour,
of
the audio
yeah,
tour. Yeah.
yeah, and you're like kind of going through the artwork. And when the AI voices become better, we will have that. In addition to that, for artists that are existing artists, we allow the artist to have a sample of their voice if they want, or to record themselves the voiceover if they want to. So we're not leaning into everything AI. We're leaning into its kind of options. You have these tool sets. How do you want to create the experience? And for the sake of accessibility and reach, it's impossible kind of for 17,000 artworks that we have right now. We're aiming towards 1 million artworks by 2024. So to kind of have let's say commentary written for all of them and executed for all of them without having a ton of money. And as we said, horticulture doesn't have a ton of money for it. So what we're trying to do is we're seeing first making it available for everyone. So we have a free subscription, and then for those who want, let's say, an added or expanded experience, for those who subscribe, they will enable with their subscriptions for us to develop this to add multiple layers to it. So that's our hope, and we aim to do it in a way that brings to you a great experience.
Hussein, what's been the biggest challenge building this specific company?
Oh, the multiple pivots we had to do, as you always do. When you're building something, you think the market needs something particular. When we started building kind of a Shopify-like NFT store for museums and artists. And what we found is that most museums and artists struggle with, first of all, marketing and retaining people. Not because every time you have a collection, you have to advertise and promote that collection. So we said, why don't we create a space where people just subscribe to a channel, just like you subscribe to Apple TV.
And they're getting refreshed content.
Exactly.
Curated
and not only that, exactly. And you don't have to, you can, the museums sit on enormous amount of, let's say, resources. And as they're sitting in storage, you can actually have the curated experiences remain like when you release movies in the theaters. The experience, as long as it's on display, it's not available online. Once it's finished, you can make it available online, just like with TVs. And also you can give people behind the scenes, photos and stuff like that. Stuff that
enhance the experience.
Exactly. And especially for people that don't have access and will never have access to your museum. I mean, it's great to see that a museum, let's say in California, for example, let's say in LA, it's a great museum. Let's say, I don't know, what am I thinking? Let's say the Getty Museum. It's a great museum. I definitely want to go there. But even I, have to take time, money, all of that to do that. Someone in, let's say, Syria or, I don't know, Europe somewhere, or in North America, in North Africa, or in Asia, this is very far off from most people. So how do they experience that? So that's what we want to do, is build those bridges so that people who have the means can do it, and people who don't have the means can still experience something.
I love it.
The museum deliver on their mission of spreading art and culture, education, and love and passion.
That's awesome, and I want everyone to check it out. We'll link that up in the show comments after. So I want to kind of, as we head to the back half of the interview here, a couple of things you brought up in our pre-show prep are more personal, and specifically working with friends and using entrepreneurship as a personal development tool. What's your take on working with friends? And because it could be tricky. I personally, it's a balance, right? A lot of my great business relationships are through friends, and I'm very mindful because I would give up that business in a heartbeat versus a friendship, and you got to be careful with that. And reputation gets involved also. But let's talk about mixing that business and personal from the lens of personal development?
Absolutely. I think the number one primary rule is to work with principled people, regardless, friends or not. I think if you work with principled people, you are more likely to anticipate what's going to happen when something, because that's what surprises us the most is when, let's say, shit goes down,
Yeah.
and people behave in a way that you didn't expect. Like, let's say let's say think that someone's going to support me or stand by me, and then they split, for example. Like, these are the things that hurt the most. So the first thing is work with principled people. My rule is I love to work with friends, or make people that I work with friends, and I mean, like, as well, principled friends that support each other, that kind of you know uh, protect your back, if you wish. And I don't mean a blind loyalty. I mean people who will tell you to your face, listen, you're messing things up, and you're not doing the best. You want people like that around you. And I couldn't think, like, the people I have to be my friends, which I open my home to them. These are the people I want to have them in my business. I don't want people who are strangers in my business that will sell the business at any kind of chance of better offer. I want people who have that in a strong relationship, to the point that they will come tell me to my face, engage with me, support me when I need to, and tell me when I'm wrong. And I think I work with my life partner, and me and her started 5 companies so far, and it's been the best ever relationship. So, but don't do it if you don't have a strong relationship with people, because doing business with people will stress. I mean, being around people regularly will stress any relationship, because you get to experience all kind of ups and downs.
Yeah, it's the X factors. It's a human X factor of just being a human. We're fallible.
Exactly. So for me, I definitely support working with friends. However, what comes first is principled. Then comes, make friends with people. I mean, you saw the latest probably debacle at OpenAI with Sam Altman.
Yeah, what happened there?
Personally, it is said that he personally interviewed everyone in the team, and that's why the team was supportive of him. You saw his demeanor probably. So people like him genuinely, and I think it's important for people to like the people they work with. I think
to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Like, they have to be able to get the job done. Let me ask you this question while we're on the topic of hiring, right? You've built in companies. What's your kind of formula and method to hiring folks to ensure skill, character, values? I mean, they don't have to be your best friend.
Yeah.
It's good that if there's a good vibe and a warm, but like, what are some of your go-to questions?
Yeah, the first thing I would want to find out is, how does that person behave under pressure? How it's going to happen, because I know that our business is going to have ups and downs. What are they going to do when they do that? I also make it a little bit difficult at the very beginning, in the sense that I'm not that flexible, because I want to see how do they deal with. So, for example, if they, even though I can, let's say I can pay them, and I don't recommend this, but this is, so what I do is I say, the pay that you asked for, I can do that in 3 months. For this time, what is it? Let's say, can you start with a little bit lesser than what you want? And the only reason I want to see, how do they respond to that? Like, it's okay if they say they can't, but the reason they can't, is it because they feel their sense of value, or is it because, let's say, money is important for them? Like, I want to see what the conversation is, because we're going to be in a situation, especially as a startup.
Right, you're lean, you're mean.
Yeah, sometimes we get, we don't get the investment that we want to get. We had to take cuts, and I definitely support people getting the money that they earn and deserve.
Of course,
this is not,
but sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you just can't.
This is not a general rule, but as a startup, I'm very honest with them and say, listen, we're going to be through hard times. Why do you want to work at a startup? Sometimes people want to work at a startup because it sounds illustrious. Yeah, I want to work at a startup.
But I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole of that.
Exactly.
Is not like let's get rid of that bias right there. Startups are rough and they're tough, and not every startup, like, that started when, like, Google started, and everyone's like, I work. They equated Google to startup.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that cool. It's hard.
A startup is not a tech company. A startup is a company trying to. It's like a baby trying to find out what it is, and it's like a 5-year-old. Every day is something new. Sometimes every 3 hours is something new, and it's very stressful for people who want, let's say, balance, or
stability.
Even a 3-month plan sometimes is out the window. Let's say something changes in the market. Last year, a lot of things have changed. Crypto changed, NFT changed, AI came up. You have to be ready for a lot of change. So the first thing I look for is, how do they deal with change, and how adaptable do they want something secure, or do they have shiny object in the room syndrome? it's more like I'm interviewing them as kind of a founder. And mostly the people I worked with were small teams, 10 to 15. I've worked with teams that are larger, but mostly in teams that are small, you want that very close relationships. You want people that are not necessarily they will. My question is not, will you stay over the weekend? I respect the hell out of people who have, and I've heard people that say the weekend is off limits for me. But if there is a crisis, how would you react? Would you prioritize, let's say, your time, or do you prioritize the team? And it's not about the company as well. I don't want their loyalty to be for the company. I want their loyalty to be the team and to see their actions as impact on the team. So if they're team oriented, if they are principled, and if they deal with change regularly, these are the key things that I look for. And it depends. I have the conversation with them and I see how they respond, and that kind of guides the interview. Thankfully I have my co-founder who focuses on skill set, background, all of that. So I don't get into those. She kind of vets all of these.
By the time someone gets to you, they have the skill set, so you can really focus on the character. That's fantastic.
There's table stakes sometimes as well.
Right. I mean, there's going to be, just these are deal breakers, right? Like, you're going to have the skill or not. You're going to be able to do the job, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that debate that goes on right now on LinkedIn kind of blows my mind. Like, hire for character, train for skill. There's a lot of nuance there. I want my doctor to be skilled. I don't care if my doctor's an asshole. I want him to have the best brain surgeon on the face of the earth, right?
Yeah,
right? Like, 100%. I mean, there's nuances that. So let's bring it home. And there's been a fantastic conversation. But before I get to it, what's on the horizon? What excites you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Let's talk high level. Let's talk technology. Like, what's super cool about like AI? I mean, I think it's another kind of terminology that's getting thrown around. Plus, historically, AI has been around for a really, really long. Machine learning AI has been around for a long time, and it's just becoming to the forefront because of ChatGPT and how do you use it. And everyone's saying, oh, AI is going to take your job. No, the person that knows how to use AI is going to take your job. Yeah. Let's be very clear about that one. But what's exciting you these days, technology-wise?
Definitely the change in the landscape of technology, not just AI. There's a ton of revolutions like happening behind, like the quantum computing revolution, like space tech, all of that. We're discussing already, was it NASA that discussing a mission to drill on a meteor. Like these kind of things are insane to think about, because 20 years ago these were kind of science fiction, the kind of things that you can do. So I think the changes in technology and the rapid change is exciting and also scary a little bit. Like there is definitely something to be kind of worried about. So that is exciting. The ability to use it and to have access. I mean, we've heard, for example, we've heard about AI before, as you said, but it was out of reach for almost everyone. Now you can, you don't even have to know. In the latest kind of OpenAI Dev Day before Sam Altman was kicked out, the thing that they introduced is that you don't even have to know programming in order to build an API to use AI to build something for your website or a software, which is fascinating, because that means anybody with an idea has less barriers, let's say, between the idea and execution, which is fascinating. So these are the things that excite me.
I saw this the other day. I saw the ability to literally draw with your mouse a website with functionality and have it coded automatically.
Yeah.
With the ChatGPT intelligence as far as like wording and other insights to it. I'm like, I can't wait to play with these things. I mean, listen, there's evil and there's for good and there's for evil, right? Like you think about like all the deep fakes and, the deep fake, for politics and media and world discourse, right? Like it's fascinating. It's scary, like with any technology. I mean, do you think, Hussein, that, are we going to be in Terminator 2? Are the machines taking over the world? I mean, do we really have to be scared?
Honestly, I don't know. I think the biggest fear that we have right now, the closest fear, definitely there's a fear of the biggest fears, let's say, using AI for weapons, using AI to, as I said, replace people without giving them, a kind of a ramp, let's say, on and off. These are the things, because those are changes that can be kind of global, and because the world is so interconnected, it will have a ripple effect, and definitely a lot of people will get hurt. The solution or let's say part of the solution, a big part of the solution, is learn. I think whatever is going to happen with the world, the probably the best path forward, or let's say one of the core steps of the best path forward, is jump in and learn. Don't play around, mess around, That's how I got into blockchain. I just attended a workshop. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is fascinating. And I started learning. I started seeing videos, and the
Whole
more I read, the less I
decentralization
learned.
concept is fascinating.
Yeah. So just start learning. And I think that will not only reduce the level of fear, but at least it helps you to appreciate. And I think that's what's missing. A lot of people are kind of separated, and they see the movement of technology, and they're only a viewer, or just a part. They're not
Get
a
involved.
participant. So get involved, step in, do something, play around. I think that's what will change. But definitely there is a lot to be. The most I think scared I'm about is that people are not as involved, and we are more kind of sitting aside, watching the world move forward, and a lot of people will be left behind. And I think that's scary, because people who are left behind tend to react differently, tend to feel ignored, and unless we find a place for them, we lose a lot of people to being left behind, and that's not good.
That's a great take there. So let's bring it home here. Hussein, what is the single greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on every day?
Always, I would say always, the best piece of advice from my co-founder is always deliver on your word. Whatever you say, I think probably one of the things that completely shifted my work ethic and how I do things, even though I thought I was principled before, but I was kind of the person that justifies, oh, this didn't deliver because of that. Oh, this happened.
Making excuses.
And my partner said, no excuses. I said, no excuses. I said, no excuses. Just at least acknowledge. You can apologize. Of course, shit is going to go down,
right?
But don't make excuses for it, because that means that the next time you're not going to work as hard or deliver. And that means you take your word less seriously. If you take your word less seriously, everybody will take your word less seriously. So that's probably the best piece of advice that changed completely my work ethic and how I go about do things.
And I love it, man. And I wish just more people would take it seriously and stick to their word, right? Like, once you break your word, like, word is bond. I mean, it's like the oldest, handshake means everything. And your word should mean everything, because if you don't have your word, you don't have anything else. I could be stripped of all my assets, my material possessions, but I got my word. And if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So let's bring it home here. Last but not least, you look back on your life, and you look back at the tough times and struggling, when you really had to pull yourself up and harness that inner tenacity that I truly believe that every great entrepreneur has, that characteristic of tenacity. And in the same breath, Hussein, you look now with gratitude, appreciation for this life that you built, these companies that you built, living a life of purpose, driven by a mission based on your passions, providing for your family, the ability to take this trip to tomorrow with your son to Japan and have this incredible once-in-a-lifetime experience with him. What keeps you focused? What is your beacon? Hussein Hallak, what is your North Star in life?
I think my love for my partner and my family is my North Star. I will do, this is the thing I will do the most of. And my love for the rest of the world is driven and inspired by my love for them. So I want to create a better world for my family. So I go about doing that with people around. And that's why I give to the community, and I forget about taking out, because I feel that I'm giving to my partner. I feel I'm giving to my kids in a non-direct way. And I think seeing the world in that way is the thing that got me to where I am.
There you go. Love it. Fantastic conversation. Hussein, I want to thank you so much for joining me. Everyone, please check out momentable.art, momentable.art, where you can find some free art. You can check it all out and see what's going on over there. Where else could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
Search Hussein Hallak, or go to husseinhallak.com. Search me on LinkedIn, Hussein@momentable.art, and I would love to hear from you. And thank you very much, Adam, for a brilliant conversation. Great question. Had a blast.
Awesome. Good stuff. I certainly appreciate you and your time. Please hang with me for one moment here as we sign off. Everybody out there, if this show meant something to you, if it resonated, leave a review, rating. It goes a long way. Sharing is caring. Certainly appreciate it. You can find out more at thepozcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at NHP Talent. You know where to find us. Connect. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of The Podcast. Take care, everybody.